Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Some 76ers news today, and it's big news. Oh, no doubt about it, this is big news when it comes to this squad, and I know how this is going to go. Brett Brown haters coming in hot going, look how stupid Brett Brown is. I've been saying since 1922 that Ben Simmons is not a point guard, and I just laugh at that. I really do. When Ben Simmons came into this league and when he was drafted by the 76ers after his injury, realistically, there was no other option. There really wasn't an option. And when Ben Simmons is phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, at facilitating, guess what? That's a great fit for a point guard. And look, here's the thing, right? For the I told you so crowd out there. Ben Simmons was consistently an all-star at a position that he never played before. And oh, by the way, he did it in the NBA. So this kid had no experience playing point guard. He is in the NBA as a point guard, and he's consistently making the all-star game. That is telling you something. It wasn't stupid for Brett Brown to put Ben Simmons at the point guard position. Not at all. He is very successful. We have seen Ben Simmons without the ball in his hands in playoff moments, and he shied away. And he really didn't do much. And he was quiet, he wasn't a factor, and he's kind of stood in an area and wasn't able to be the X-Factor type player that the squad really needed. So I'm intrigued by this. This is something that excites me because I've seen this team struggle so far this season. It obviously wasn't working, and this is a big change. This is a big switch up to the point where, yeah, you know what? It might work. It could be better. I mean, what it was so awful that this no doubt could be better, but let's not act like this automatically means that it's 100% effective. We have seen Ben Simmons not be effective when he was just chilling off to the side, and I would like to think that he won't just be standing there in the dunker spot. He has groomed and developed off the ball enough to maybe know to do certain things in certain spots where he wasn't really comfortable doing that in the past. We're going to get into a lot of this because it's super interesting. How does it impact Ben Simmons? How does it impact Shake Milton? And how does it impact other players? Al Horford to the bench. Tobias Harris playing the 3, which he did for a majority of the season this year. But when Al Horford did go to the bench at that run during this season, Tobias moved back to the 4, and I think he looks a little bit more comfortable at the 4. How about Josh Richardson? Like, this move impacts a lot of players. Does this create less space for Joel Embiid? Because think about it. Tobias Harris, who plays the stretch 4, kind of gives more space out to Joel Embiid. And now Ben will be clogging the paint more. So there's a lot to dive into. Before we do, this episode of Sports Talk with Broads is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and with over 20 years of experience in the industry, they are home to your solar experts in residential and commercial. We are talking $0 electric bills. That is so valuable to homeowners. Not only that, they can do tree removals, water purification systems, which clean, healthy, soft water to your family, for your family is very important. Battery storage, backup energy services, and more. They provide so many upgrades to your home. Visit them online. Their link and information is in the description. Now, I like this move. I do like this move. It kind of gives me a little bit of butterflies to see what's going to happen. There's like an anticipation factor here. Like, I can't wait to see what it looks like. I've seen Ben off the ball work. I've seen him not work. But when it does work, it's super effective. Just like any part of his game, though, right? I've seen him be super aggressive with the ball in his hands to the point where it's like, damn, Ben, why can't you do that every single time? Why can't you do that consistently? And then I've seen him be very quiet in games when the ball is in his hands, too. So it works both ways, no doubt about it. I've seen him be phenomenal rolling to the basket. And there's been a problem with Ben Simmons at times. he doesn't get to the charity stripe enough. He does not get to the free throw line. And I question, because of the nature of the power forward position, will he be closer to the rim at times? Will he be so close to the basket that teams will then foul him? So he will get to the free throw line more, and he will gain confidence by actually knocking down those shots. If you remember, towards the end of the stoppage, he was really knocking down his free throws at a really good clip. So will he be able to gain confidence that way? I question how teams are going to defend him. Now, it will matter who the opponent is. That's what the NBA playoffs is all about. It's about the matchup. So will they put somebody on him like Pascal Siakam? I can see Ben Simmons working someone like Pascal Siakam. What if they go with those two big men and they give you that two big men look where it's Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka? I think that will hurt Ben Simmons more because they will kind of suction him off of the paint, because I brought this up on 97.3 ESPN today with Mike Gill. The news actually dropped right as we went on the air from 2 to 6 p.m. You can download the free mobile app, 97.3 ESPN, and listen Monday through Friday to myself and Mike Gill, 2 to 6 p.m. Make sure you do that. But the news was dropping, and I was talking about how, when it comes to the Boston Celtics, they put it on display on how to stop Ben Simmons when he has the ball in his hands in a half-court set. You kind of build that wall. And Gill was talking about how if you put him at the 4, he's getting the ball so deep in post-ups that it might not work that way. He might be able to do that baby hook, or he might be able to be so aggressive, get to the rim so hard that it might be super unbelievable and tough to stop. But I do feel like you can stop players from posting up so deep. And there might be a way out there to hold Ben Simmons out of the paint when it comes to posting up to the point where he's in an awkward spot, right? Does he take that jump shot because he's so far away? Is he comfortable doing that baby hook from that certain distance if they do build a wall? It won't be the same wall that was built when he was in the half-court set at the top of the perimeter, but it can still be a wall that makes him uncomfortable. He doesn't need, he needs, when you think about Ben Simmons and the range from the basket that makes him uncomfortable, he doesn't need that much space to make him uncomfortable because the dude doesn't take any sort of jump shot, right? So the wall doesn't have to be extremely far out to stop Ben Simmons is my point. But I'm curious how teams are going to defend him because he's super athletic, he's super quick, he's not your traditional 4. Nowadays, the 4 position is more so that stretch 4, that Kevin Love, Anthony Davis type position where they sit out on the wings. But let's factor in Joel Embiid. The guy just talked about how he wanted the ball more, how he wants to dominate more. If he can get low and totally destroy other centers. It's going to hurt if Ben Simmons is rolling to the basket at times and kind of clogging up the paint. Now, I do think it will work if Ben rolls to the basket with Shake Milton and they give him maybe a bounce pass when it comes to the roll, and then everyone sort of moves towards Ben Simmons, and that's when he can maybe drop it off to Joel Embiid, who will have an open slam. It will work to their benefit at times as well, no doubt about it. But I still think it'll hurt Joel Embiid at times too because he needs space. He needs space, and when you look at what stretch 4s do, they get away, they sit in the corner, and that will allow a big man to kind of go to work and dominate. So I asked the question, putting Shake Milton in the lineup, putting Ben Simmons out there at the 4, playing off the ball, who does this impact more? And I think the answer is Shake Milton, because he's being implemented into the starting 5 when you're talking about a postseason team. You're talking about someone who was essentially a nobody before this point. The answer is Shake Milton. Ben Simmons is still going to be phenomenal. He's still going to be a good player. This impacts Shake Milton more. Someone who was a nobody, who worked his ass off, made the most of his opportunity. I don't think this would have happened if Shake Milton didn't make the most of the opportunity when Ben Simmons was out. But guess what? It happened. And you'll always find guys that take that opportunity, grab it, and run with it. And in this certain spot, Shake Milton, no doubt he did that. So you got to tip your cap. Brett Brown gave him the opportunity to do so. He knocked it out of the park, and then he rewarded him. And that's how it went. Brett Brown has made a decision to take Ben Simmons off the ball. That doesn't mean Ben Simmons isn't going to be running this offense at times. He's absolutely still going to be running this offense. The dude is A+. He's money when it comes to facilitating. Guys like Furkan Korkmaz, reasons why players like that get so wide open by just camping out by the three-point line, it's because when Ben Simmons attacks the paint, everyone collapses to it, and then he's able to kick it out. Ben Simmons, being who he is on the ball, is one of the reasons why this team gets looks at the three-point spot at times. But who do you think, when you look at these numbers statistically, whose numbers are going to fall off where? Because I look at this as a spot for Ben Simmons where his numbers, points per game, might go up, but his assists might drop. The beautiful thing, I still think defensively, he's going to be unbelievable. He still might lead the league when it comes to assists, although it might change if defensively he's not rocking those guards anymore and giving them such a hectic time. But we'll see how the defense all plays out with things. But I still think he's going to be a very effective defender, because that was the beauty of him anyway. It was the fact that he could defend 1 through 5 no matter what possession. So with that being said, I really don't question anything that's going to happen with Ben Simmons defensively in terms of it going the wrong way, in the wrong direction. He should be a defensive player of the year candidate for years and years to come. But getting back to the offensive side, I think his numbers will go up when it comes to scoring because he's going to naturally be by the rim more. So yeah, absolutely. But I do sense that there will be times where he might be able to still generate those assists. I talked about how teams are going to defend him, but what happens if they bring the double team? If someone brings the double team, which they might have to do at times, he's going to find an open man. Or if he's just in the low post or in the low block and teams are defending him one way, he still might be able to use his vision. That's the best part of his damn game. The best part of his game is moving the rock, vision, basketball IQ, seeing these players, knowing when they're going to cut, seeing it before it happens, right? That was one of the major things I've learned when I was playing college hockey. Make the play before you see it happen. You're going to have to because the game moves so quick. Well, Ben Simmons absolutely does that. So I do think it might go down naturally from not having the ball in his hands as much, but I still think you'll see him make crazy plays and really sick passes throughout the rest of the run here. He's unique. He's unique at that spot. But I hate this narrative that, it took Brett way too long. I told you he's not a point guard. He's still going to be running offense. And they never had another guard to do this with. We're realistically hoping that that's Shake Milton. But we don't know. What if we run through these 8 games and Shake Milton isn't the player that we thought he was? Or that we're hoping that he is? The sample size for Shake Milton is so tiny. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not intrigued by him. I am anticipating him to be able to do something out there, no doubt. But, that's just hope. That's just hope. I hope he can do what he did against the Clippers. I hope he can do what he did against these teams. But who knows if that's a reality long term? He never did it with Ben Simmons out there. You can argue that maybe it's better that Ben is out there because normally when you're out there with better players, you succeed more, right? More team success when you're with better players. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But it's also a totally different environment. Shake ballin' the way that Shake balled without Ben Simmons. I'm sorry, guess what? It's not the same from having Ben Simmons out there on the floor. It's not. Similar to Joel Embiid's comment saying, I was dominant towards the end. Yeah, but Ben wasn't out there. And that changes everything. So who knows what to expect out of Shake. But I get trying it. I'm for trying it. I think it's smart to try it because the alternative, just doesn't work. So getting back to, Brett making this decision, the whole he's not a point guard, I brought it up to you. The guy constantly made all-star games as a point guard after really not having much experience in that position. That's telling you something. And when the best part of his game is facilitating, and the fact that he's so athletic, and the fact that it's a mismatch every single game because the dude's 6'10", and the way that he can defend the position, it made sense. Look at what Ben Simmons has done to this point, and then try and tell me it didn't make sense for Ben Simmons to play point guard, right? That's just laughable. That's like saying, it doesn't make sense that LeBron James played small forward because look at how good he's playing at point guard right now when it comes to assists. Well, that's the beauty of LeBron. He can play all around. Well, Ben Simmons can play all around. That's me acknowledging that he can play other positions out of the point guard, but that doesn't mean he can't play point guard. And I think that's where it's lost. But once again, this team never had that guy. And Brett said it perfectly. He did. It's not like they had a Chris Paul. It's not like they had a Damian Lillard. And they kicked them to the curb so Ben can play point guard. That's not what happened. During those process years, you had slop. You had nothing. So you gave a kid the rock and said, go play, dude, because guess what? The way you see the floor is mesmerizing. Put the ball in his hands, get him the experience, and then here you go. I don't see a problem with it at all. But now that there's someone in the locker room like Shake Milton who gives you a chance to maybe be that primary ball handler, fine, try it. Okay, I'm with it. Cool. But don't say Shake was sitting there the whole time. Nobody knew Shake was going to do this. There was an injury at one point. He came back. Ben Simmons left, and he made the most of his opportunity. And once he did that, Brett realized the kid has to stay in the lineup because he did that. There was no idea in the world that Shake Milton could do what he did against the Clippers beforehand. I'm sorry, nothing he did previously will tell you that he is an X factor like that. And once again, we don't know if that's even possible. We don't know if that is the real Shake Milton or if it was just a run. Hell, look what happened to Jeremy Lin. You don't know. You don't know. Markelle Fultz was supposed to be that guy. Markelle Fultz was supposed to be that player. They did draft that. They had that in mind when getting a guard like Markelle Fultz, to have a primary ball handler out there with Ben Simmons. So this was in the plan. It was in the plan. So because they didn't have a certain personnel, they weren't able to run the certain personnel. I get into this debate all the time about the Eagles and the 12 personnel set when it comes to the Eagles. They want to run the 12 personnel set, so they went out and drafted Dallas Goedert. They went up and got him because they wanted to play the 12 personnel set. But they couldn't do that before. They weren't just going to run the 12 personnel set with just Zach Ertz because they wanted to run it. Well, they couldn't do it then. So they didn't do it then. Now they have Goddard and Ertz. They're able to do it consistently. So they do it more. You see? You see how that works? But because people hate Brett Brown, they automatically assume everything Brett Brown does is wrong and they rip it. Let me give you the Gabe Kapler example again. I despised that man. There were decisions that worked, and I gave him credit. This Ben Simmons thing where he played point guard, I mean, it worked. It worked. Go back and watch what Ben Simmons has done to this point. It worked. Doesn't mean other things can't work. But now that you got a different personnel, so you think, we'll see if it plans out that way. But you think, you rock with it. You try. And I'm for it. I'm absolutely for it. There's some other things that I really want to get into with this, man. This is a big deal when it comes to impacting the team. Can we expect Shake Milton to knock down the three-pointer like he did to this point? Probably not. I don't know if where his numbers are now is realistic long-term. But could we get a 40%? 40% would be really nice. I don't even know if 40% is something long-term. But somewhere between 37 and 40%, if we can get that, that would be nice. That's the one thing with Shake. He is not afraid to shoot the three ball. And when Jimmy Butler was playing that, he was afraid at times to pull it. As you can see from this season, where it has been absolutely hideous from that guy. Go look at his three-point percentage this year. Ridiculous. Awful. Terrible. Shake's not afraid to pull it. And that's big. That's really big. Okay, so how does this impact other guys? Josh Richardson. It seems like he's just going to be that flat-out two guard at this point. Pop it and shoot it kind of guy. I didn't like when the Sixers tried to put the ball in his hands. I'm not going to lie. It didn't look right. There were times. There were moments. He had some nice fourth quarters where he would go off. I think, I'm just spitballing off the top of my head, but I think there was a game where he came out red hot in the fourth quarter. He scored 17 points or so, something like that, and he was totally dominant. There are moments for Josh Richardson, but ultimately, I didn't like him as that primary ball handler at times with the second unit or some of the bench guys. I was out on that experiment. I'm interested to see how he's going to be utilized now with Shake as the primary ball handler, with Ben Simmons still being a point forward, by the way. He's still going to be running the offense at times, the fast breaks, even if he gets out a little bit and Shake fires it off to him. There's going to be times where Ben is still the primary guy when it comes to doing things with the basketball. But that would lead Josh Richardson to be more of just a guy who's going to pop it and fire it, and he'll put the ball on the floor sometimes, but maybe not as much as he did during that whole situation when it was just Ben Simmons with the ball in his hands. He was used as that combo guard at times, and I just didn't really naturally like it as much as I thought I would heading into the whole Josh Richardson trade. I remember when the whole thing happened, you lose J.J. Redick, but you also lose Jimmy Butler, and you get Josh Richardson in return. Oh, this guy's a way more elite player than JJ. He's a way better three-point shooter. He's way better at this. I'm I don't think so. I really don't think so. Now, I'll say defensively, it's a huge addition compared to what JJ Redick brought to the table, but I don't think that offense is anything close to what JJ could do. And you can knock the dribble handoff all you want, but there was something that JJ Redick did all the time, and that was move. That guy moved, he ran around, he was nonstop, and he was tiring out the other player's two guard who was defending him because he was nonstop rolling around, moving around, running around all the time on offense, and that definitely played a role into making some teams uncomfortable at times and huffing and puffing because they were out of shape. But when it comes to Josh Richardson, I see him more kind of like just a two guard now, just your standard two guard. He will be able to put the ball on the floor at times, dribble the basketball. I'm not saying he won't be able to do anything. You might see some pick and rolls with him. You're going to see more pick and rolls. You would naturally see more pick and rolls when it comes to having Shake Milton on the floor. And I'm specifically speaking about when Shake Milton's on the floor. And that's huge because, look, in this league, you got to run more pick and rolls. It's just reality. It's what you have seen work in this league over the last couple of years. And the one thing that I'm really intrigued by is a pick and pop with Al Horford. So let's get into Al Horford coming off of the bench. Coming off of the bench for Al Horford, I think it's big. You're going to have to find time, though, to get him on the court. If Ben Simmons is going to play 38 of 48 minutes, that's 10 on the bench at the 5 position. Now, if Ben Simmons comes off the floor, it's different. Before, when we had this conversation, it was when he was primary ball handler. If he's now the 4, it's totally changed the dynamic. But you got to get Al Horford in there. You also have to get Mike Scott in there. Will you ever utilize Tobias Harris to slide down more in the 4? So now you're trying to find Al Horford more than those 10 minutes that Joel Embiid's off the floor, while also utilizing Tobias, Mike Scott, and Al Horford. Is there anybody else that I'm missing that plays the 4 off the top of my head? Not really. Not really. I don't expect much out of Norvell Pell, who would play the 5. I don't expect much out of Kyle O'Quinn either. Maybe for some veteran minutes, but I doubt it. I think you kind of have enough with those 3. You got a lot to play around with here. Because the other players, Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson III, Matisse Thybulle, Furkan Korkmaz, who's going to be a role into this thing. Yeah. You're going to have to find some minutes for Al Horford. You're not going to be getting 10 minutes a night. I can't imagine 10 minutes a night at Al Horford. You got to find him more minutes. Will there be times where it's Shake Milton? Because here was the conversation before. Ben, Joel, and Al Horford don't work. Will Shake Milton as the ball handler with Al Horford at the 4 and Joel Embiid work? Will that be different? Because you can utilize the offensive sets differently because Ben's not out there? Will it work with the pick and pop game? You got to get Al Horford utilizing the pick and pop more. Whether it's that mid-range one right outside the free throw line or whether it's at the top of the three-point key. You got to find a way to utilize that more. And how about Tobias Harris? Tobias Harris, I think, when you talk about defensively, if you're now defending the 3 position, you got a lot more problems. You do. Because you're getting different type of athletes. Way more versatile athletes. Dudes who can totally dribble the basketball, score the basketball, blow right by you, pass the ball. I mean, they can do it all. That 3 position is a scary position in the NBA. And defensively, I think that puts him in a tougher spot. I think he's more comfortable at the 4. At least that's how I see it. Naturally, the game just comes to him differently when he plays that stretch 4 position. So keep an eye out on that. Keep an eye out on how Tobias Harris is going to play at the 3. I didn't think it was horrible. I didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. But I think it looked smoother. It looked like it had more flow. It's just as simple as this. The game came to him better that way. And I would hate to see him, go in a different direction based off of that. Based off of maybe having to go up against tougher opponents defensively. It changes a lot. It does. I hate to break it to you. You got to play both sides of the basketball floor when it matters. In the postseason, there's 2 sides. I promise you. I know what you're thinking. Offense is the only thing that matters because people naturally get attracted to offense. Defense matters. And I hope he's able to handle it. He's not the worst defender in the world. He's not great either. I don't even know if I put him at good. I think he's just average. Just average. Gets beat sometimes. He makes some good deep plays. When you go up against some tough dudes, though, we'll see how it plays out. We will see how it plays out. But here we go. This is something that will be talked about again. No doubt about it. This is the hot item. This is big time. This is big news. And when you look at this team, this changes the whole thing. This could be the difference maker. This could be the game-changing type of move that can push this team moving forward. They needed a new identity. They needed something that can totally change the swag of their team. Is it that? Now, the one thing that gets me a little bit excited about Shake Milton, and I get how there's coach speak, and I get how there's player speak. But these players have been around so many NBA guys at this point. They have seen players who stink. They have seen players who are good. They have seen players who are great. What you're hearing out of Shake Milton and the general vibe surrounding what he has done so far in practice, which, by the way, does not relate to NBA postseason games, but what you have heard about him is, he is showing something. He is showing something, and Ben Simmons is also showing something as well. Once again, guess what? It doesn't relate to NBA playoff games. It's a totally different beast. Regular season games do not even compare to the playoffs. Let that sink in your head. Regular season games do not compare to the playoffs. That's why when it's a Tuesday night in October, when it's a Wednesday night in February, and the Sixers lose this bad game on the road, okay, it doesn't relate. Because that happened, it does not mean that this will happen in the playoffs. 2 totally different sports, essentially. So I'm not saying because they're speaking highly of Shake Milton, that automatically means he's going to be some dominating force. But it is nice to know that in this limited opportunity, which is all he can do right now, it does seem like he's raising some eyebrows and making stuff happen. Hopefully, that translates to, the floor. To the opponents. To actual play. And only time will tell. But look, in terms of making this type of move, I credit Brett Brown. I think it's smart. I think it's time to kind of give something new to this team. Give a spark. Give a spark plug. Give a fire. And I'll leave on this. Going back to Tobias Harris. What Tobias Harris is becoming as a leader is so important. It's what I thought Al Horford was going to be. But because he's so messed up mentally, because he's not that confident here, because things hasn't been so smooth, I don't think he's been that type of player in the locker room and that type of veteran that we expected to get. It's not easy in this locker room. With Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid being the personalities, being the superstars we expect them to be one day, they are the leaders. So how do you kind of implement yourself around them as a veteran presence? Well, it does seem like Tobias Harris has figured out a way to do so, and it's remarkable. He is that true pro, veteran, mature guy. And he's being way more vocal than ever before. Keeping the team together during COVID. When it comes to the Black Lives Matter issues, the guy is just being everything that I ever could have imagined Al Horford being. And you know what? I'm really impressed by that. I love that. I love the fact that it's Toby. And I think it took him some time to kind of learn the room. Learn this place, learn the culture, learn how it's going to be. And he's opened up. He's opened up tremendously. And I think that speaks volume. And you know what? In terms of how this year ends, it could be an added bonus. But I'm looking big picture here. Because guess what? In case you forgot, he's here for quite some time. And I like that, by the way. I'm not one of those Tobias Harris haters who react to the contract. I like that Toby's here. So long-term wise, looking at this big window wise, super important. Super important. See where it goes. Let's see how this whole thing goes. More videos will definitely come out. People are falling for the Ben Simmons jump shot video. People are looking at Joel Embiid's weight. And I get it. We're dying for sports here. We're dying. We actually had one caller on 97.3 ESPN today say we should trade Ben Simmons for what was it? Or he wanted to package up Ben Simmons, a bag of old gym clothes, and a bag of used basketballs just to get him the hell out of this city. And take him off the air right now. Take him off the air. Don't give me that crap. That's garbage. That's nonsense. And we'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sports Talk with Bros. Remember that this episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power, and with over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, Orbit is home to your solar experts. Their solar program helps eliminate your electric bill completely. They offer flexible financing solutions such as $0 down. $0 electric bills, people. Not only that, water purification systems, clean, healthy, soft water for your family. So important. Tree removals, battery storage, backup energy services, and way more. They provide so many upgrades. It's actually insane. Their information is in the description. Make sure you check them out today. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time.